Shelby Oaks follows a woman who is desperately searching for her sister who went missing in Shelby Oaks 12 years ago, and her investigation is reinvigorated when a man holding a tape labeled Shelby Oaks kills himself on her doorstep. Film fans YouTube, hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Josh, Movie Apprentice, and I am the last one to talk about this movie. I feel like all of the film reviewers have gone through this film already, but I had to throw in my 2 cents. I am looking at Chris Stuckmann's Shelby Oaks. And I won't bore you with my whole attachment to Chris Stuckmann. I review films on YouTube. He opened that door. That is the long and short of it. How did his first theatrically released film work out? Well, before I get into that, if you like what you're seeing on the channel, click the like button and subscribe for more videos that's coming out all the time. Without further ado, let's jump right into this. This stars Camille Sullivan, Sarah Durn, and Keith David. Straight off the bat, I will say that Camille Sullivan, she is solid in this movie. She has to do a lot of emotive performance in this when it comes to portraying fear, and she does a solid job in this role. I do have qualms with the character herself, especially when we get to our final part of the movie. But in terms of the performance of bringing this character to life on the big screen, I thought she did a great job. And Keith David, he has a small role in this, but he adds a pedigree to this very low budget film. The budget on this one was like very low. I think it was barely over $1 million overall. I can forgive some of the shortcomings, but at the same time, I feel like they tried to stretch the budget a little bit too far on this one. Before I jump into that though, let's talk about cinematography. I thought it was a very well shot movie and really created a sense of tension. However, when it comes to the color grading of this movie, I had qualms with it. There is this early part of the film that's very documentary focused, very Blair Witch esque. You know how with Blair Witch, they originally planned to have the whole wood stuff be 15 minutes, and then the rest of it was planned to be an actual documentary around that footage. This film asked the question, what did that documentary footage look like? That's what the first 20 minutes leads up to. And unfortunately, the first 20 minutes for me do drag out a little bit. It is a whole 20 minutes of exposition dumps, and you can make a drinking game out of how many times is Shelby Oaks said in that first 10, 15 minutes. Take a shot on that. You'll be plastered from the get go. But when we finally get into the inciting incident of the movie, the tape that the sister finds that reinvigorates her attitude to go after her sister and try and find her after all these years, that is where the film begins to get a little bit interesting, but only a little bit. There are some questionable elements of this movie when it comes to investigation. The dynamic between her and her husband in this one, we get some throwaway dialogue in that first 50 minutes expressing their relationship, their need for kids. That is just a passing bit of dialogue that plays a big role later. I did not buy this couple, and the actor who plays the husband, I'm sure he is a great actor in other films, but in this one, he is literally a plank of wood, and I don't buy any connection between the two. Same with the two sisters. We do get some flashbacks to the sisters in the other days, but I don't feel we get enough of it. We don't get enough to really form that sisterly connection. It is really driven by her quest to find her, and that's all we're given to try and really buy how close they are as sisters. Any family, even the strange families, will go out the way to try and locate a missing loved one. But going back to my point about stretching the budget too wide, this is a film that's been shot on a very minuscule budget, especially in this day and age. It has too many locations. There is a abandoned theme park location that is there briefly, but is never utilized. Like genuinely, if you're gonna get a location like an abandoned amusement park, theme park, then use it. Don't ignore it for all but maybe two small scenes. Creepy Shack in the Woods, we have seen that a million times. And for me, it just really, I don't know, it didn't feel like it maximized its potential. And some of the locations just felt, they didn't feel like real locations. There was a prison scene, and I can kind of forgive it because of the film's low budget, but at the same time, with our establishing shot of an abandoned prison, shows our protagonist almost seemingly to be way too big to fit into a jail cell on the left. Maybe it's just my perspective from where I was sat in my screen for this one, but it felt like this was some obvious either green screen or matte painting, and it didn't blend very well. And the effects, I will say, the effects I can offer in two hands. There's one particular effect on a major antagonist that I feel like works very well with how much is kept to a minimum and kept in shadows. But on the flip side, we have these, don't want to say they're completely CG generated. I feel like they did use actual dogs and blended CGI over them after the fact, but they look so poor. And the film spends way too much time lingering on them shot wise. And going back to the color grading, you have the documentary aspect that feels a little bit too dark. And then other parts of the film feel way too brightly lit and brightly graded. There's no sense of tension created from the visuals when we're seeing this nice, bright, open space. We can see every detail in the frame. Horror needs to have that air of mystery to it when it comes to its grading. And this film doesn't quite keep that to a consistent level. We get to our final act that gets a little bit far fetched, but the big kicker for me on this movie is the final 10 minutes of this movie. In case you haven't seen this movie yet, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but what I will say is considering the journey and motivations we have followed with our protagonist throughout the runtime of this movie, this felt like an outright betrayal of the entire character journey we had gone through for the majority of this film. It just feels like I can only assume they were under the influence due to one shot that could imply that, but for me, doesn't do enough to solidify that. So when we get to our final set piece of the movie, it feels laughable, frustrating, and rage inducing because we've had this whole journey of them trying to achieve one goal and then completely disregarding it for a goal that we've seen briefly mentioned one time way back at the start of the film. That doesn't feel very natural. For a first time feature effort, especially to be released theatrically, with the budget it had, Chris Stuckmann did do a good job directing this movie, but it does feel very underwritten and undercooked. I very much respect his directing chops in this more than I do his writing, because I feel like the writing in this movie is what majorly lets this down. It has a strong opening with its documentary style, but if you'd seen the trailer, you knew that wasn't going to last. And the middle bit was probably the strongest bit. And there was definitely a period where I was fully on board with the film, but you got to stick the landing to really make the film feel more positive than negative once you leave the theater. And for me, the ending knocked a whole star rating off it for me because it just felt like an absolute betrayal of the main character in what they were trying to achieve. The whole film that we were rooting for them to achieve, it just kind of gets tossed by the wayside in favor of a shock ending that for me didn't quite work and honestly made the character seem very stupid considering the context of the previous sequence of events. Before I grade this overall, if you like seeing our channel, click the like button and subscribe for more reviews that's coming all the time. Let's grade Shelby Oaks. Chris Stuckmann, look, I'm going to do a little speak about him now. He opened the door for people to review films on YouTube, not in the written capacity, but on the camera and editing capacity. He's probably the first one that people think of when it talks about video reviews on YouTube, like he uploads today. He gets like hundreds of thousands of reviews almost instantly. Like him or hate him, I will say this for him. He's lived the dream. He loves movies. He's got to make a movie and put it on the big screen. And the fact it was a horror movie, I was fully on board from this for the get-go. I really wanted to like this. But for me, well, it just doesn't land at all for me. There are more negatives than there are positives in this movie. Whilst I do like the performances in this, the way it's directed, and the way it was ambitious in how it tried to stretch its budget and the effects on our main antagonist, that I really liked. But the character betrayal, the questionable color grading, the inconsistent effects, and just the way it drops the very promising open 20 minutes concept in favor of what feels a very standard fare event, it just fell flat for me. But he's lived the dream. He has made a movie, and nothing can ever take that away from him. So, congratulations, Chris. But for me, I'm going to have to say that Shelby Oaks is a lukewarm cup of tea. So, Shelby Oaks, have you seen it? If you have, let me know you thought down in the comments below. And coming up on the channel, going to continue my London Film Festival reviews. There should be a poll on my channel at this very moment in time that gives you options of what to expect next. So make sure you go vote. Until next time, everybody, my name is Josh. I've been Movie Apprentice, and I'll see you all in the next video.